Alrighty, y'all, we're back with another season preview update. I promised you guys that I would get this out on Sunday, and so here I am bright and early for you guys on a Sunday. I don't know. I'm trying to space the videos out, see if that makes them perform better or worse. I'm always experimenting with this stuff. But anyway, this is the second part of us talking about the teams individually from this cat trade. I think it's interesting to talk about both. Talked about the Knicks yesterday, and I think it's a great move for them. For the Timberwolves, I'm going to be honest for you, I'm going to be a little bit more pessimistic in this one, and I want to be very clear about a couple things early on. I think all the players involved in this trade are very, very good. I think Julius Randle is an awesome basketball player. I think Donte DiVincenzo is an awesome basketball player. Same with karl-Anthony Towns. And I want it to be clear that there's more things that go into these deals than just basketball. And that's unfortunate for us to handle sometimes as fans because there is a business behind this at the end of the day. And it just sucks because this was a business deal, and that is the only way to logically look at it. So let's start off with talking about it. So the Minnesota Timberwolves just traded karl-Anthony Towns, right, to the New York Knicks, and they got back Julius Randle, who was, kind of suspected to be on the block, and they got back Donte DiVincenzo, who I have down here. You can see their salaries and everything over here, right? Julius Randle making about $28 million a year, Donte DiVincenzo making about 11. What I can show you guys is the difference in salary cap, and that's the first thing you need to understand about this trade. So right now the Timberwolves are about $9 million past the second apron. If we get rid of Julius Randle and Donte DiVincenzo and we bring back karl-Anthony Towns, they were $17 million over it. So this team is trying to figure out how to operate, right? That's their first logic, is they were like, okay, we've got some problems coming up. We need to maintain some of these players, right? We want to re-sign Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Most likely he's a guy we got to develop. More importantly, they probably want to bring Naz Reid back because you just looked at Naz Reid and he's got a player option. He's making way under what he should. He's probably opting out and he's going to want a bigger deal. So let's just say we changed his contract to $20-25 million. Look, the Timberwolves owner, he doesn't want to pay that. It's unfortunate. That's kind of there's certain owners that they don't care about winning that much. They just don't, right? Personally, if I'm a billionaire or something like that, right? Maybe I would run the team differently. Maybe you would run the team differently, right? But at the end of the day, they're doing what they want to do, right? So they're like, look, not trading Rudy Gobert because we just gave up all these picks for him. We're not getting rid of Edwards, right? We just signed McDaniels to an extension, so Cat became the obvious name, right? And there were people that were interested in Cat. I mean, he was a good player for them this year. Obviously, they made the conference championship. His offensive game isn't ever in question. I know he kind of had a poor last series. I mean, people shoot bad sometimes. It's what happens, right? It's not like he was playing any different. It just is what it is. And he started to figure out his defense. I'd been long theorizing that Cat just couldn't be a post defender and that he wasn't good at navigating pick and rolls and things like that and understanding where to be defensively. So they moved him over here to the 4 and he started playing great perimeter defense. He was a big reason why the Nuggets struggled so much against him. He was the one guarding Jokic and they put him on Kevin Durant and stuff, and he was hurting them, man. He was giving them problems out there. He knew Rudy Gobert was behind him. He knew guys like Ant and McDaniels and stuff were locking down their dudes. So he's like, all right, I'm just giving you everything I got and we're going to make things happen because he's big and he's athletic and that's what he can do. But now you don't have karl-Anthony Towns, and this is a team that struggled so much offensively last year. This team ran a pretty gross-looking offense that really wasn't much of anything. It was okay, Ant save us or Cat save us, right? That's just a lot of what it was. And so we were watching them play, and we were like, okay, they can't really lose any of these two. What happens if they trade Rudy Gobert or something like that, and then we try to play Cat and Naz Reid together? Can something like that work? Now Cat's gone, right? A guy that just generates a ton of offense, and now you have Julius Randle. Julius Randle, his whole ordeal, because he is a very good basketball player. This is a potential all-NBA guy year in and year out. His whole thing is he can't really play within team offenses, and that's just because of his play style. He likes to get it up in the high block. He likes to kind of operate. The best version of him is when he's doing handoffs and things like that, and he's being used as a hub-type player. How do you play that with Rudy Gobert and stuff? This combination is gross to me. I just don't like this from a basketball standpoint. And I'll get into the business side of it more. I promise I will. But I'm just talking about it from a basketball standpoint. I don't like this. It's poor spacing. There's not going to be, both your forwards don't move, and that's a big problem when you've got guys like Jaden McDaniels who hasn't proven that he can go create for himself yet. So you got Conley out there and you got Ant, and that's your first five, right? I mean, these are your top couple players and stuff. I know you can throw Naz Reid in instead and stuff like that, but this is going to be your starting five, right? And your starting five is gross. It's not a great combo. Defensively, I think you're probably going to be just fine still, but it's offensively this team's just going to be stuck in the mud. Like this is hurting Anthony Edwards by doing stuff like this. It is making his job so much harder. Now, they also picked up Dante DiVincenzo, and that's nice. You've added some depth to the team. I mean, you look at your shooting guard like position, like your 2 to 3s right here. You've got some really good players like in these like 6 players right here. You got DiVincenzo is going to be like a 6th, 7th man, and apparently he was like unhappy potentially coming off the bench in like New York and stuff like that. He's going to have to come off the bench here too, so hopefully he's okay with that. But like 3-and-D to the max, huge effort guy, smart basketball player, great pickup, right? I love Terrence Shannon Jr. I like Nickeil Alexander-Walker a lot. I hope McDaniels keeps getting better. Joe Ingles, you can play him if you really need to, not in extended minutes at this point, but you got what you got out of him. So you got some depth on this team now, and that's awesome. I mean, I'll take a look at the rotation really quick with you guys. This is kind of what I've drawn up. I've got Conley playing a few less minutes. He's getting older. Ant's going to need to play most of the game. McDaniels is out there a little bit, and that's because we have so many wings that we have coming off the bench here that he's not playing quite as much. Randall's going to have to get a few. I've still got Rudy and Nas kind of just like swapping minutes as much as we can. Then we got DiVincenzo playing starter level minutes. Like Terrence Shannon Jr., you guys have heard me say I think he's like an incredible player. So he's getting around 18. Then you got Nah and you got Dillingham here. So like this team had such a good offseason up until like this point. And that's what's kind of a bummer here is like we were saying the Timberwolves were the winners of the offseason up to this point. Like maybe you could throw like Dallas in there or something else, right? Maybe Philly. But I was saying Minnesota. I'm like, I think Minnesota had the best offseason because they kept their group together. That was so good last year defensively. They needed to go get scorers, and what did they do? They went out and drafted Rob Dillingham. They went and got Terrence Shannon Jr., right? Like they went and got Joe Ingles. They went and got the smart vet, right, to come off the bench and stuff like that. And so while they were probably going to have some of the similar struggles, they were addressing it in the correct fashion, right? And now you went and traded Cat, and it's a shame, right? I mean, I live in Minneapolis, and I was at a wedding last night when this happened, and I was talking about it with all these Minnesota fans, and they all just went like, you know, we just don't win many basketball games here, right? I mean, this has been a poverty franchise for a while, right? I mean, it just hasn't had like really any success in its longevity. You had the one season with KG where you went to the conference finals, and then this season. Like, that's it, this last season. And then as soon as that happens, you get rid of like the second best player on the team and one of like the best players that's been with you for a while. You took him with the first overall pick, and like that just sucks, man. That sucks like internally within the organization. I can promise you it does, because I've got plenty of connections to this team. Like people are pretty bummed out about it on the team and like in the staff, like, and people get it. It's a business, right? They all understand the business that they're in, but they're like, man, that's a real bummer. Like that group was really cool last year, and like now he's gone. Again, talking about it from a business standpoint again, and like this sucks for a fan perspective and everything if you're a Minnesota sports fan, and Minnesota sports fans have it rough as is, but like Julius Randle is super talented. Like again, he's not Cat. He's not going to be better for you than Cat, but he's cheaper, right? So now you've got him for cheaper, and you can make decisions based off that now, right? Like you can hopefully retain a Naz Reid and Nickeil Alexander-Walker and stuff like that. We'd like to think that these billionaires just want to play within the rules and they'll just keep re-signing these guys, but they don't want to lose all that money. They just don't. They've got this Pistons pick that they got in the trade too. They're probably never going to see anything more than a second round pick out of it because the Pistons can't get their shit together, but they got it. It's basically a nothing thing, though. It's basically a nothing thing. One of the things that I was kind of saying that I was pretty surprised about is I couldn't believe that Cat got traded and it wasn't for Brandon Ingram. Like, doesn't that just seem like something that should have happened? I mean, the Pelicans are so desperate for a center, and if I were to get somebody for Cat, like let's say I had to trade Cat, right? Would I rather have, and this is the Timberwolves, right? Would I rather have Julius Randle or Brandon Ingram on this team? I'd rather have Brandon Ingram because at least I know he can like play in an offense and he can like handle the ball and create some things for other people and stuff like that. Like Randle just doesn't really play like that. I'd rather have Brandon Ingram. And yes, you're gonna have to re-sign Brandon Ingram after this year, and that could be a similar issue. And shout out to the people in the Discord. If you guys aren't in the Discord, you should join. We've been chatting it up about this, so thank you to all of you in there that have been helping giving me opinions. I mean, you don't have to be like a former like coach like me to have opinions on this stuff. So it's maybe you take mine as a little bit more gospel than other people's, but at the end of the day, it's good to get other opinions. And somebody brought up like, hey, like maybe they didn't want to trade Cat to the Pelicans because they're within the same conference, and they're like, oh man, if we give Cat to the Pels, like we might not be able to stop them, right? And that's a valid point, right? I mean, maybe that is the case or something, right? So that's something to consider with that. That's part of the business in it, right? And the strategy behind it. So I don't know. I think it just sucks. I think it really sucks. I think it's a bummer. I don't think this affects the Timberwolves like standings at all. Like maybe you could convince me that Denver becomes like a 3 seed in like you guys have seen my standings and everything, and maybe Minnesota drops like a 4 or something like that, because I don't think this makes them a better basketball team. I think it makes them a worse basketball team. But overall, like, this is still a stupid talented team that's got a lot of resources and stuff like that, and they've got some good players that they're going to get a chance to show off this year. But I don't know how this fit works. I hope it works. I want to see like all these teams succeed and all these players succeed. And again, I have nothing against Julius Randle. I just don't think this is a good fit, and I think it's bad for Ant. I think it's going to make Rudy's job harder. And I don't know. I feel like you have to get Naz Reid on the court more. I just would have rather seen them go find a wing or something like that if they felt they really had to do this, and then try to play Naz some more minutes. I don't know. I think it's a really tough pill to swallow if you're a Minnesota fan. I really do. But I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts at the end of the day. I just want to give you kind of a season preview update because I've been doing videos like this. But hey, you guys let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks so much. Bye.